Welcome to www.rei-tv.com. I'm Nick, your host. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, our last episode, we talked about commercial investing, and I had my friend Jeremy Shapiro come on and talk a little bit, and from maxainvestments.com. I hope some of you got on his mailing list and are starting to learn a little bit about commercial investing. You can go right down to the next video and grab that. But I want to talk about commercial because I've got so many emails, so much interest, so many people excited about commercial investing that I wanted to do another episode and kind of talk a little bit about commercial investing. Today is Newbie Tuesday, so I'm going to cover the basics. This is for the new people, the people that are either new to investing as a whole or new to commercial investing. I'm going to go over the basics, excuse me. This way, even if you stay in residential investing, you should have some knowledge of commercial investing, because anything you watch, listen to, or read makes you a better investor. So one of the first things I want to cover, commercial investing is not as hard as people think. A lot of people, there seems to be this stigma surrounding commercial investing, and people think, oh my gosh, it's those big glass $100 million buildings downtown, and yeah, sure it is, but it's not always that. There's a lot of different types of commercial investing that you can get into. You can start small, move your way up, but it's just not as hard as people think. It's not as hard to get funded. It's not as hard to find deals. It's not as much work in some cases once you have the deals. Everyone that owns commercial properties isn't like Donald Trump. You don't have your own. They don't all have their own TV shows, and they're not always in the news, and there's not always casinos, and they're not always buying sports teams. They're not always that power woman who's always perfect from head to toe and sharp as a whistle and put any man in their place. It's just real people that own most of the commercial property out there. People like you and me, the guy next door, the guy that owns a few Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, there's all types of commercial property, and I want to talk about the basics for those of you, since it is Newbie Tuesday, that are getting into it. First off, what is commercial investing? What type of properties are involved in commercial investing? The easiest way, with some exceptions, is when it's run or owned or houses a business as compared to somebody living there. A business park, I'm sure you've driven by them all the time, never noticed them, but now you will. A business park where there's, it's one level and there's many, many different buildings. And a business park, this is more like an office park. These are like office condos, rented, leased offices, where there's, different types of, not manufacturers, but distributors' offices, that type of thing. Just a flat office building, instead of the offices going up, they go this way. That's an office park. And of course, there's office buildings, 2-story, 10-story, 100-story office buildings where they're full of offices. There's industrial parks, which in a lot of cases looks like an office park, but instead of having offices in white collar, it's more blue collar. There's manufacturers in there. There's warehouses in there. There's storage, that type of thing. Things are being made, things are being stored, things are being shipped, things are going in and out. There's strip malls, and I mean, I'm sure most of us go to strip malls every day of the week. It's where the Starbucks is. It's where Dunkin' Donuts is. It's my post office is in a strip mall. Ace Hardware might be in a strip mall. A strip mall is where there's 8 or 10 or 15 one level. It's one building broken up, one floor tall, usually, sometimes two, but broken up into different units, into different stores. So that's a strip mall. And then there's an indoor mall, where, you've all been to the mall. It's where you go inside, and there's hundreds of stores. And usually those malls have what are known as anchor stores. An anchor store, like an anchor store in a strip mall, might be a Best Buy or a Bed Bath & Beyond. In other words, that's the main store, or a Target or a Walmart. That's the main store in that strip mall. They call that the anchor store. And then there's other smaller stores that are leased out around it. It's the same thing with the indoor malls. There might be a Ward's or a Sears or a Carson Peary Scott or a J.C. Penney or several anchor stores in the big indoor malls, and then there's lots of little malls, lots of little stores around it. Self-storage units. last night we had our special guest for our primetime group, and we have a great time in those calls, but our special guest this month was Terry Hale. Terry is a commercial investing expert, and he talked a lot about commercial property. If you're not a primetime member yet, you should be. It's only $14.95 to take the first. It's actually free for the first 2 months. The $14.95 is shipping, but you should be a primetime member. But in any case, Terry Hale spoke to our primetime family last night, and Terry Hale, and told us all kinds of different things. And he talked about recession-proof commercial properties, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But there's also office condos. It looks like an office building. It could be an office building or an office park, but they're where instead of each unit being leased, the units are all owned. Doctors love it. Dentists, chiropractors, a lot of different businesses would prefer to own their own little office, 2,000 square foot inside of a building. So those are office condos. There's warehouses. The recession-proof units that Terry talked about are apartment complexes. Apartment complexes, anything more than 4 units, 5 units and above. Even if it's just a building with 5 units or above, it's classified as commercial, as a commercial property. So, when times are bad and we're in a recession like we are now, a lot of people lose their homes, right? Well, apartments are recession proof, because what happens when people leave their home? They lose their home. They move into an apartment. And when they leave their home, they got all kinds of stuff, and it doesn't all fit into that little 900 square foot apartment. So what do they do with the stuff? They put it in a self-storage unit. Self-storage units are commercial properties that are totally recession-proof. When things go bad, people need to store their stuff somewhere, and it doesn't fit in their apartment. Assisted living facilities where the seniors live. That's a commercial property that people get into. Land, just pure land. And a lot of people now, they're doing things with land. It's like they're buying land, and then they're putting a cell tower on it. And they're getting big money every month just for having the cell tower, cellular phone tower, or some other type of antenna on that land. They're buying raw land, letting people store boats on it, or store mobile homes on it. They're not even building on the land, and the land brings in income on a regular basis. So commercial property. Now here's what I want you to do. When you're driving out around the town, I want you to look around a little bit more and start noticing this commercial property. There's so much more of it. When I first started looking at it, there's so much more of it out there than I ever thought. I mean, I knew it was there, but I didn't pay attention. It's like when you're going to get a new car and you're thinking about a certain kind, all of a sudden you see every one of them that passes you on the street. Start thinking about commercial investing, because commercial investing adds a zero. You could do one deal a year in commercial investing and become a multimillionaire. Some people have done one deal and it's changed their life, and they've been able to retire and live the rest of their life on that one deal. But don't let it intimidate you. It's the same thing. It just has another zero on the end. Now, one of the things about commercial, I said before, it's almost easier, not easier, but less work once you own the property to maintain it, because you're going to in most cases, I mean, you could choose to do whatever you want. It's your property. But in most cases, you're going to let the pros handle it. You're going to have a management team that leases it and manages it and takes all the payments. You're going to have attorneys handle it. You're going to have accountants handle it. A lot of cases, there's less day-to-day work once you own that commercial property than there is in residential work. I mean, let's face it. If you've owned 2 properties, if you've owned 1 property and you got tenants in there, you know how much work it could be. You know how much effort it can be. Especially, if you got a few properties and your tenants aren't paying, somebody has to go collect, then they disappear, you got to go clean it out, you got to rent it out again. It's a lot of work. Commercial, you pretty much have the pros do it. You hire a management team, you hire an accountant, you hire an attorney. The properties generally throw off enough monthly cash flow that you can have that all taken care of for you. Also, the way you buy and flip, anything you do with residential property, you can do with commercial property. So, you can buy and hold a house, rent it out. You can buy and hold a commercial property. You can flip commercial property. You can wholesale it. Get a contract on it, find someone to pay more, flip it, step out of the deal. You never owned it. You get your finder's fee, you get your spread, whatever it is. But instead of making $3,000 or $8,000, I think about $10,000 is average what we make in wholesaling, properties, houses. You start flipping commercial property, and you're talking 50, 100, 150, 200,000 bucks just for flipping the deal. There's a lot. You just add a couple zeros. Don't let it intimidate you. It's all out there. You can lease. You could lease commercial properties, and that's what Terry Hale was talking about. He leases the buildings with an option to buy. Same thing we do with our houses, right? He leases it with an option to buy, then he steps in, he manages it, he gets the monthly cash flow, he gets the property producing more, throwing off more income. He executes his option, flips it to somebody else, but instead of making 20 or 30 grand, he makes $1 million, $2 million, $5 million bucks for flipping that property. Lease with option to purchase, same thing. You can do short sales on commercial property. You can wholesale commercial property. All the same techniques that you use in houses, you use in commercial property. Yeah, there's a little bit of a difference. I mean, sure, there's differences, things you got to learn. One of the main differences is how they're evaluated, not evaluated, how they're what's the word? Value. How do you get the value? For houses, we run comps. I still don't remember the word. But for houses, we run comps. For commercial properties, it's really not based on how many square feet it is, and is there a pool, and how big is the garage, and how much is the other properties that are identical in the same neighborhood that have just sold worth, like houses. It's really, they're priced on, they're appraised on how much cash it's throwing off. So you could have two apartment buildings across the street from each other or in the same complex. You could have two apartment buildings across the street from each other in the same complex, and those apartment buildings can be the same. They can be identical. But if this one is 30% occupied and this one is 70% occupied, this one might be worth $700,000. This one might be worth $3 or $4 million. And they're the same buildings in the same state of repair. The only difference is this one is 70% occupied and this one is 30%. So how do you make big money fast in commercial investing? You find the one that's 30% occupied. You find 5 or 6 tenants, bring it up to 70, and you sell. You get out of it, and you make the spread. You could double, triple, quadruple the cost, the equity in a commercial property simply by controlling it, filling it, and then getting out of it. It's a beautiful thing, really. Really, there's a lot of advantages. So don't let commercial investing intimidate you. Add a couple zeros to the profit. Consider getting an education on commercial investing. There's a lot of people that do it. Terry Hale has that at his website. I got a couple freebies coming up in a couple weeks. You're going to get some videos from a good friend of mine, Jason Gilbert, is going to come up with some videos that I'll give you guys. That'll give you a lot more than I've just given you about commercial investing. But I want you to open your mind. As you're driving through the neighborhoods, as you're driving through town, look around, check it all out, start thinking big. Just imagine what you could do. Now, we got a little bit of BS for you. Okay, here's today's BS. As you know, our BS is a bandit sign. BS, get it? But www.iprovidethecash.com. If you're doing short sales, you pay a flat fee to get involved. Then you could use their cash over and over and over again without paying up front for each deal. If you're flipping a short sale, you know, so many of these guys want $500, $600, $700 up front for each short sale just to give you the money for one day. You pay once, you're in. www.iprovidethecash.com. Use their money for every deal. If the deal don't close, it doesn't cost you anything. They'll also give you a good education. They'll let you do all kinds. They're teaching how to buy REOs in bulk. They'll teach you how to flip a house. But the best thing is the private money that they'll provide for your deals. That's the commercial. I love it. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is Nick. We're www.rei-tv.com. Watch for our videos from Jason Gilbert coming up soon. Now go make a commercial offer.